My name is Evan Mercer, and I was 29 years old the night everything changed. If you're hearing this, it's because I finally found the courage to talk about what happened inside that police station, what should have been the safest place in my entire town. I used to believe that law enforcement buildings were the last sanctuary, the place you run to when danger follows you. I don't believe that anymore. Not after what I saw. Not after what saw me. Scene opens, Evan speaking shakily, recording himself late at night. Evan. I guess I'll start with the night of November 14th, 2012. It was cold, one of those Wisconsin nights where the air feels thin and mean. I worked the late shift at a warehouse. Boring job, but safe. Predictable. I liked predictable. I stayed late to finish inventory and left around 1 a.m. The streets were empty, quiet in that eerie, everyone's asleep but something else isn't kind of way. I took the usual shortcut behind the old rail line. No one really used it anymore, but it cut 10 minutes off my walk. And that night, all I wanted was to get home and collapse. But maybe if I'd taken the main road, maybe I would have avoided everything. I was halfway down the alley when I first heard the footsteps, not like echoes of my own. These were heavy, deliberate, and they stayed perfectly spaced no matter how fast or slow I walked. I kept glancing over my shoulder, but no one was there. Then I heard it, a voice. Low. Wrong. Evan. I spun around so fast I nearly fell. Again, nothing. The alley was empty except for a flickering street lamp and a sad pile of leaves scraping across the pavement. Evan, who's there? No answer, just cold air pressing against my skin. I started walking faster, almost jogging, until I saw movement in my peripheral vision. Something tall, standing just beyond the reach of the streetlight, blacker than the darkness around it. And still, I ran. By the time I reached the residential blocks, I was breathless, my heart hammering like it was trying to punch through my ribs. I didn't look back. I didn't want to. I bolted straight to the nearest place with lights on at this hour, the Brookhaven police station, a safe place, or that's what I thought. Cut to police station lobby, quiet, fluorescent lights buzzing. Officer Ramirez was working the desk that night. Big guy, always kind, one of the few cops everyone liked. Mercer? It's almost 2 a.m., man. You look pale as hell. You okay? Evan, someone followed me, or something did. I don't know. I needed to get somewhere safe. He gave me that concerned lip bite expression cops do when they're trying to decide whether you're drunk, high, or genuinely scared. Ramirez. All right, come inside. I'll take a statement. He buzzed me through the locked door into the inner hallways. The air inside felt different, thick and stale, like the vents hadn't been cleaned in years. Weird, because the station was usually spotless. I followed him toward interview room 2. As we passed holding cell A, I heard something. No, someone. Whisper. Evan. I froze. Ramirez didn't react, as if he didn't hear it. Evan, did you hear that? Hear what? I backed away from the cell door, but not before I peeked through the small reinforced window. I swear to God, there was someone inside. A face pressed up against the glass. Not a normal face. Too long, too pale, eyes too big and too dark. Mouth barely a slit, but impossibly wide. I stumbled back so quickly I hit the opposite wall. Evan, there's someone in there. Ramirez frowned, walked over, and unlocked the small hatch, shining his flashlight into the cell. Empty. Completely empty. Look, man, you're exhausted. Maybe had a panic attack. It happens. But I knew what I saw. I knew. Inside the interview room, he set a cup of water in front of me, but my hands were shaking too much to lift it. All right, tell me what happened. Everything. I started explaining the alley, the footsteps, the voice, the shape, but halfway through, I noticed Ramirez slowly looking toward the one-way mirror behind me. He wasn't just glancing. He was staring through it with this strange, frightened expression. Evan, what? What are you looking at? He didn't answer. His lips parted like he wanted to speak, but instead he stood up and walked to the door. I'll be right back. He left, and he didn't come back. Cut to Evan alone in interview room. Minutes stretched. 5, 10, 15. The light above me flickered in a rhythm. 2 long pulses, then 1 short. Over and over again. Like Morse code. My breath fogged in the air. Inside a heated building. Something was wrong with the temperature. It was getting colder by the second. I rubbed my arms, trying to warm myself, but it didn't help. Then the mirror in front of me, the one-way mirror, began to darken. Not like a shadow passing over it. No, like something was on the other side, pressing its face against the glass, smearing it with black, oily streaks. I pushed back from the table so hard the chair screeched. Evan, Ramirez? Anyone? No answer. The streaks on the mirror began to move, slowly, dripping downward like tar. And in the shifting blackness, I swear I saw that same long, pale face from the holding cell, emerging inch by inch, like it was trying to push through the glass. I bolted out of the room. Didn't wait. Didn't think. The hallway was empty, but the lights were flickering in that same two long, one short pattern. The walls looked damp, the floor felt sticky, and the entire station was silent. Not quiet, silent, like sound itself had been swallowed. I shouted again for Ramirez, for anyone. Nothing. Finally, I saw movement at the far end of the corridor, an officer stepping out of the records room. Officer Hale, a stern older guy who always seemed irritated but dependable. I sprinted toward him. Evan, Hale, thank God, something's happening here. Something is. He held up a shaky finger to stop me. Don't move. What? Why? It followed you. I froze. You saw it? You swallowed hard. He looked like he hadn't slept in days. People think this place is safe, but you bring the wrong thing in, and it stays. You think you're the first? What are you talking about? He stepped closer. This station has been haunted for decades. Something attaches to fear to people running from it. They come here for protection, but they bring it through the doors with them. And once it gets in... The lights behind him went out. A wet, dragging sound echoed down the hallway. Slow, heavy, like something pulling itself across the floor. Hale's voice dropped to a whisper. Hale, you need to go. Come with me. He shook his head. Hale, I can't. It already marked me. He backed away, gun trembling in his hand. Run, kid. I didn't argue. I took off down the corridor, heart slamming against my ribs. Behind me, I heard Hale shouting. Hale, stay back! I said stay back! Don't! No! Gunshots. Two loud blasts, then a sound I can't unhear. A wet, choking gasp, and the crunch of bones folding in ways bones shouldn't fold. I didn't look back. I reached the main lobby and slammed into the front desk, but when I tried to open the lobby doors, they didn't budge. Locked. I pounded on them until my fists hurt. Help! Someone help me! Something slammed against the wall behind me. I turned, slowly, horrified. The long, pale face was pressed against the glass pane of the interior door. The same dark eyes staring straight at me. The same impossibly wide slit of a mouth stretching into a grin that reached its ears. The door handle began to turn on its own. I ran again, ducking into the nearest stairwell. I climbed fast, 2 steps at a time, until I reached the second floor. The lights here were out entirely. The only illumination came from the emergency exit sign glowing red at the end of the hall. I pushed on the door. It didn't open, locked from the outside. I pressed my back to the wall and tried to catch my breath. Then I heard footsteps upstairs. Slow, deliberate. Not human. I ducked into the evidence room. Inside, shelves towered over me, stacked with labeled bags and dusty boxes. The air tasted stale, metallic. I hid between 2 shelves and trying not to breathe too loud. A minute passed. 2. Then the temperature dropped again, so sharply my breath came out in white gusts. Footsteps entered the room, but they weren't footsteps, more like dragging, slithering. A sound that made every hair on my body stand straight. I covered my mouth with my hand. Something moved between the shelves. A tall silhouette sliding across the room without making the kind of movement a body should make, like its limbs weren't attached properly, like it was folding through space. It stopped inches from the aisle I was hiding in. I heard its voice. Deep. Wet. Wrong. You brought me inside, Evan. My lungs froze. You opened the door. It moved past my aisle and vanished behind another row of shelves. I stayed still for nearly 5 minutes before slowly, quietly creeping toward the exit. I didn't hear anything behind me. No dragging, no footsteps, nothing. Maybe it left. Maybe. A hand, long, pale, thin, slammed onto my shoulder. I screamed and swung around, but it disappeared instantly, like smoke. The shelves behind me began shaking violently. Boxes fell, bags burst. Dust filled the air. Something was coming down the aisle fast, knocking everything aside. I sprinted for the door. I flung it open and stumbled back into the hallway. The emergency exit sign flickered, then went out. And behind me, the evidence room door slowly began to creak open again on its own. I didn't wait to see what came out. I ran downstairs, heart pounding so loud it drowned out my footsteps. Back toward the station lobby, back toward the front desk. When I reached it, the lights above suddenly snapped back to full brightness. Ramirez was sitting at the desk again, like nothing had happened. Ramirez, hey Mercer, you forget something? I froze. Evan, Ramirez, you were gone. The station hailed something was here. He frowned. What? You came in like 5 minutes ago. You told me someone followed you. I told you to sit while I grabbed some forms. No. I've been here for almost an hour. You left me alone in the interview room. Hale is dead. Something killed him. Something was here. Ramirez stared blankly. Hale doesn't work nights. He hasn't in months. I felt sick. Check the cameras, please. Just check the hallway cameras. He sighed but turned to the monitor bank. He clicked through feeds, empty halls, dark rooms, nothing unusual. Then he pulled up the corridor outside the evidence room. My blood froze. It showed me running out of the evidence room, terrified. Behind me, nothing. Absolutely nothing. No pale figure, no long face, no dragging shape, just me. Ramirez, look, Evan, maybe you're tired. Maybe you imagined. Behind him, the monitor flickered. For a split second, the feed glitched, and the pale face appeared behind me in the footage. Staring, grinning. Then it vanished. Ramirez went pale. Ramirez, what the hell? The lights above us blew out, one by one. Pop, pop, pop. Darkness swallowed the station again. I heard it behind us, dragging, slithering, laughing. Ramirez grabbed his gun and pulled me behind the desk. Stay down. Something hit the hallway wall so hard the building shook. A door slammed somewhere, then another, then a third. A horrible scratching sound began on the walls. Deep, harsh gouges like claws carving straight through concrete. Then it spoke again. Ivan! Ramirez fired 3 shots blindly into the hallway. Every bullet sound was swallowed instantly, no echo. Then a shape rose behind him. I screamed, Evan! Ramirez! He turned too late. Something yanked him upward, fast, violently, so hard his feet left the ground. He was pulled straight into the darkness above the ceiling tiles, disappearing without a sound. The tile fell back into place. Perfectly. Like nothing happened. I ran. I ran out of the station, out the front door that was somehow unlocked now, and didn't stop running until my lungs felt like fire. I never went back. A week later, they said Ramirez was missing. They found his badge in the parking lot. They said Hale had retired and moved out of state. But I know what I saw. I know what happened. And I know it's still there. It followed me. It follows people who run to safety. Because fear is a beacon. And once it finds you, it doesn't leave. I'm 42 now. Every night I hear it somewhere in the house. Scratching, breathing, waiting. I don't go out after dark anymore. I shouldn't have run to the police station that night. I should have kept running. Story the end.